Amusements would be exploding like guns every few minutes to the shrieks of children, and at night there were small gorse fires on the ridge, little spirals of blue smoke marking the evening sky. It was a strange summer, even before it became tragic. The heat first of all, then the red sand that blew over the ocean from a far-off desert one June morning and dusted the garden. People worried that we were going to get a disease from breathing in its alien particles, with some even suspecting it was a Russian plot, though what that plot might have entailed was never elaborated on. And there were dead flies everywhere. You'd find clumps of them in corners of the room or along the windowsill in the mornings. People mostly blamed the red sand. The liquid mercury never fell. The afternoons slow and sultry. The heat like a sedative, sucking the oxygen away and slowing your movements. Every step became a commitment you had to think seriously about. A negotiation with invisible forces that pressed against your body and demanded submission. Most nights were too hot for rest, and when sleep did finally come, I had anxious dreams about death and the end of the world. Our old cream-coloured house stood aloof on the cliffs above the town, decrepit and sinking into a lethargy of simmering heat and late afternoon silence as the summer wore on. The long sash windows staring dolefully out to the sea. A bottle of white wine would be stashed in a bucket of melting ice on the front steps, a blanket unfurled on the grass, and a library book upturned and forgotten in the sun. My mother was painting again, so there would be an easel at the edge of the orchard, jars of coloured water at her feet, and an unfinished, lonely canvas left aside to dry. She never seemed happy with what she painted, and would retreat into the shade with a glass of wine, a large sun hat hiding her eyes, only occasionally throwing furtive glances at her work. She was 33 that summer. Young, really. She had studied art for a few months, but never completed her degree, my birth a sort of fatal interruption. So painting was both an escape and a reminder of deep and lasting failure. There was always a brittle pain in her straight back as she stood before the white canvas. I sometimes think we were made for doing little and completing nothing, and the heat brought out the worst in us both. There was an indolence at the heart of our very being which we always tried to hide, but never quite did. People said it was because we were creative, bohemian even, but I think we were mostly just idle. We were the products of money, but the money had all gone, leaving us marooned in a fading dreamland of what once had been. We were an echo and barely real at all, the recipients of both a respect and a dislike that we didn't really deserve. The guests we took in every summer in order to survive were an inconvenience and an embarrassment. We failed them mostly, as we did each other. Elizabeth, my mother, was probably at her most beautiful. I've come to understand that her face was one of the central defining features of both our lives, and that beauty is far from the superficial thing people like to suggest. It should really be studied more completely, and not by fashion magazines, but by psychologists. Men watched her endlessly, and I spent my life watching them. It became one of my habits. That year, her hair was still black and very long, her skin brown with the sun and her eyes large and green, with thick, dark lashes. We had Spanish blood and it came out most fully in her, a Mediterranean flavour to her, being that she emphasised with colourful scarves and by drinking wine in the middle of the day. She read books by French authors and talked to me about Marx. She thought exams were an anachronism and never bothered to turn up for parent-teacher meetings or school concerts. But she could be charming if she decided to be. So most people in authority of one kind or another forgave her. And of course, she was very beautiful. It disarmed people, interrupted them. People lose themselves.